What's up, scholars? Welcome back to another video. We're talking about the last part of Whole Cake Island. I'm mad. I am so mad at Oda for redeeming characters that I didn't want to be redeemed, but they were redeemed and now I like them. I'm talking about Pudding. I like Pudding now. I was so ready just to not like her for the rest of the entire story of One Piece, and then Oda comes in and just and makes me like her, and I'm mad about it. Another thing I'm mad about is Sanji's family. So mad. I'm so mad that it doesn't excuse what they've done, and I haven't forgiven them for what they've done. Make no mistake, I still hold a lot of bitter anger towards the Vinsmokes. But I'm so mad that Oda gave them redemption, like some sort of like redemptive qualities, or at least some atonement for what they've done to Sanji. I'm mad. I am mad about it because you know what? I would have loved to just write them off and not like them for the rest of the show. I didn't ever want to see the Vinsmokes again. I didn't even ever want to wonder if they were okay or what happened to them after this. I just wanted them to be gone forever from the existence of the show, and now the arc ended, and the way it ended, I betrayed myself and my feelings, because one of the last panels we see of the Vinsmokes when they're going against Big Mom is I was like, do they make it out okay? And then I resented myself for thinking that. I'm gonna move over to my proper spot so I can put my pictures here. I am upset that Oda did exactly what I didn't want him to do, and gosh darn it, he's a great writer, so of course it worked, and rant over. Welcome to this video. Welcome to my final part of Whole Cake Island. I read up to, or through chapter 903. Because I couldn't stop myself after 902, so I read another chapter, and then I had to force myself to stop because I just wanted to keep reading. So I read through chapter 903. The end of this arc met every expectation I was hoping for, and then some, and then so much more. It redeemed Pudding for me. I now like Pudding. I don't love her yet, but I like her a lot. I like her character a lot. And especially after reading y'all's comments in the last video regarding Pudding and her kind of double-sided nature of how she's acting versus who she really is, and the effects of trauma and abuse that Big Mom had put on her for so many years, that really helped put her character in perspective to me a little bit more. So thank y'all for that. Y'all really helped win me over on Pudding here. There were 2 parts. Actually, no, scratch that. There were 3 parts in this final, like, segment of Whole Cake Island that I cried about. One was when I was reading live on my Read With Me regarding Pound. The other was Judge and Luffy's confrontation as they're escaping, and the final one was the parallel with Sanji and Zeph cooking. Before I really get into the actual like bits, like the meat of this arc, I will just say this arc has been masterful, just so good, with the amount of foreshadowing that has come to fruition in this arc that we have had in separate parts of the story, the character development, the character building that we've had for more than one of our characters, main one being best boy Sanji, plot that continues to thicken, these new characters that I am now very sure are going to be playing major roles later on in future arcs that were introduced here. We get more build up with the lore regarding like the poneglyphs that Big Mom has, and towards the end of this arc, something that happens with Luffy But we also get, you know, the reveries coming up. This is building up to this huge moment. So this arc, while it has a lot of self-contained plot and a self-contained action, it, as all arcs in One Piece do, adds to the story and continues to build onto the story and leads up to things. So it's like we have a lot of major players in this arc that are going to become very crucial later on, and I'm so excited. But on top of that, just the storytelling in general regarding the backstories we get with Sanji, regarding the way Oda portrays Sanji and Luffy's relationship, Luffy's trust in Sanji and his understanding of Sanji's position, the bond that they have, this familial bond that all of these Straw Hats have, but in different ways, and it shows in different ways, and we see that in this arc. It also shows how different familial bonds by blood can be very harmful, but also familial bonds by blood can be very sweet and beneficial. The contrast I'm seeing is, well, there's a couple, but like Pudding and Big Mom's really, really bad toxic relationship. You have Katakuri and Brulee, which is a very unexpectedly sweet brother-sister relationship that I was not expected, but they are so sweet as siblings. You get the Vinsmoke familial bonds and how toxic it could be between the brothers and Sanji, between Judge and Sanji. And then you get the sweetness of that bond with Reiju and Sanji, but you also get the complications of each of these bonds. It's not just, well, this is bad, this is good, that's it. It's not so black and white, and you see that with Pudding and her actions. You see that with how Katakuri interacts with Flampe, I think, the sister who thinks she's the favorite and thinks she can do whatever she wants. You see how he interacts with her compared to how he interacts with Brulee. And then, of course, we see that mainly that it's not so just black and white with the Vinsmokes themselves and how they come to Sanji's aid towards the end of this arc. There is a huge focus on family in this arc, whether it be blood related or whether it be found family. There is a lot of focus on family, and Oda does so well when writing found family, when writing these difficult concepts of familial bonds, whether forced, whether bound, whether freely given or freely found. He does really well just being able to explore this and expound upon it, and he does so masterfully, so wonderfully. And I think for those reasons, I mean, and several others, but those reasons, and we even get, another woohoo, Lola and Pound, or not Lola, we get Chiffon and Pound as another familial bond, and how it's not black and white. We get Lola and Chiffon, their sisterhood, and how that sisterhood causes Chiffon to turn against Big Mom. So, I mean, like, the depths of family, even you get Capone and Chiffon, their little family that they have made through their marriage, and they have their son. I mean, the family theme is so thickly present in this arc, and I just love it. I have loved it so much. We have so many different types of family and different types of familial bonds that are represented in this arc, and it shows all sorts of connections, all sorts of differences and similarities, and it's so good. It's so good because it shows the best of family, but also the worst of family and everything in between. I love this arc. I love Whole Cake Island. It has quickly become one of my favorite. I keep saying this every time I read a new arc. I keep saying it's become one of my favorites, but that's just how it is. I love it. I love this arc. now let's actually kind of get into this. I do want to make a whole separate video. I don't know when. I don't know if it's going to be when I'm caught up or if I'm going to do it just somewhere in the next few months. I don't know where, but I do want to make a video regarding the theme of family in One Piece. Whole Cake Island will be very central to that, but of course I'm going to be bringing in other parts of the story, from Water 7 to Arlong Park, Enies Lobby, Sabody, Fishman Island. Like there's so much in Dressrosa even. I mean Alabasta, so much of this story, so much of One Piece has a very central theme of family. Whether it's blood or found family, it's so central to One Piece that I feel like I have to make a video about it soon. I just don't know when, but I'm gonna start studying, because that's gotta be a video you study for. So there's a lot. Because it's such a huge theme in One Piece, I'm gonna dedicate my own video to it. So I'll stop talking about it now in this context. I'll probably mention it as we go through, just hitting highlights on some of the relationships that we see. But let's actually talk about the arc itself, the end of this arc. Where I left off was Luffy was battling against Katakuri. He was not doing great at all because Katakuri has this great future sight. Luffy is lagging behind a lot and is not able to land solid blows on Katakuri. You have Brule listening through the mirrors about where Luffy and the others are supposed to be meeting, so she's tipped everybody off. You have Capone's group heading to Chiffon on the Chocolate Islands, and you have Germa up and on the move because they figure out where Sanji is and the Straw Hats are, so they're on the move. That's another video I'm gonna have to make. I'm gonna have to make a video about the Vin Smokes because I can't. There's like 3 parts to Luffy versus Katakuri and how it's split up in the arc. But I really like in Luffy and Katakuri's fight, Katakuri is actually very smart. A very smart opponent for Luffy because he only underestimates Luffy one time. And he has this respect for Luffy because he even says, he's like, let me be clear, I refuse to underestimate you. The only time I'd say he underestimates Luffy is when he buries him in that mochi thinking he's gone and goes off to eat his donuts. And Luffy eats the mochi and comes back after Katakuri and he's like, oh. I think that is the only time Katakuri underestimates Luffy, and that is one of the biggest problems that we've seen in One Piece villains so far. They have a tendency, either because of Luffy's personality or his devil fruit or his age, they have a tendency to underestimate him, to underestimate his powers, or to underestimate his versatility and durability, and it leads to their eventual defeat, coupled with how resilient Luffy is and how strong and smart he is as a tactician during battle. But I do like that Katakuri actually challenges Luffy by not underestimating him. He actually makes Luffy work to like 110% of his ability to grab the win. And it causes Katakuri to have so much more respect for Luffy that way. And Luffy to respect Katakuri for not treating him as an underdog. But yes, I do love Katakuri. I think he's so adorable. I know he's really insignificant about the cuts on his mouth and just how his mouth is because of the way he acts around it. But I wasn't off-put by that at all. I guess maybe I've consumed either enough One Piece or other anime and manga that it doesn't bother me. But it is really sad that, I mean, it's kind of the same thing, like his mouth brings him a source of shame from others and to himself, just as Pudding's third eye brings shame upon her from others and all that. So I do understand that very much, but it didn't shock me. I thought he looked kind of cute eating those donuts. He was having such a fun time. I will say, I love Katakuri. I love Katakuri. And another thing is that while he's eating these donuts, he's laying down on his back, and he's known for being this cold, strong man who has never laid down on his back once in his life, has never laid down. They emphasize that so much. And Katakuri, as he fights, he's known as this invincible opponent that he never goes down, and he has never fallen on his back before. So not only is he hiding in this little cage so he can relax without others seeing him and others being jaded from that perspective they have, but that whole concept of laying down on your back being shameful comes into place in such a cool way at the end of this fight. Luffy, after eating and he's slightly recharged, starts to fight back against Katakuri, and he's starting to think about how he can combat Katakuri's skills, his power, and his haki. Luffy decides, hey, I want to see if I can do this future sight thing too. And I love that as Luffy is fighting Katakuri, slowly figuring out how his powers work, we get this shot of Sanji as they're finishing up the cake and everything. And Sanji has just complete faith in Luffy. He said, because they're talking about Katakuri's winning streak, that he's never lost a day in his life. He's never laid down a day in his life. And I love Sanji. He says, well, there's a first time for everything, and it looks like today's his unlucky day. Don't worry, let's just make that cake. He has complete faith in Luffy. There's not a single trace of doubt in his mind. Even though Katakuri has a bounty in the billions, he's not worried for Luffy. And I just love that. And then as Luffy is in the mirror world, he spots Brûlée. The face he makes whenever he sees her. Poor Brûlée, she's just been caught up in a lot of stuff this arc. It's kind of funny but kind of sad. Same with Zeus. Zeus has been caught up in a lot of stuff in this arc, poor thing. But yes, Luffy grabs Brûlée because his Gear 4 ran out. He exits the mirror world so that he can recharge, but he exits right into where Big Mom is just rampaging everywhere, so he has to run it again. It's just on and on until he gets his haki back so he can go back and fight Katakuri. Because, as he says a little bit later, as he's talking to Brûlée about haki and the uses of haki, he's talking with the utmost respect to Katakuri, and he says, I want to surpass him. I want to beat the Billion-Berry Man at his best. And so while Luffy is resting, you get back over to Sanji, who has made a cake so good that people are like passing out from delight upon tasting it. And I said this in my read with me, but I'm a little jealous. I'd like some food like that. I know I got the cookbook up there, but that requires me to actually cook it. I love Sanji's absolute confidence in his cooking and his skills, and he's leaving it up to Luffy, so they're focusing on getting the cake out. And they're trying to get the cake up to Capone's ship. Oven comes in to stop them. He starts hitting Chiffon, and then we get Pound, who spots Chiffon, knows immediately that that's his daughter, and wants to come help. Chiffon is another really great character that I have come to really love, like Lola. She not only stands up for herself and what she's doing, she's helping Pudding out. She's putting her life on the line, even though she has a child waiting for her at home and she's got a husband at home. She is putting her life on the line to not just quell Big Mom's rampage, but also to help the Straw Hats because she feels she owes them a debt for what they've done for Lola. I just really love her character, and she stands up to her brother saying, I'm not stopping. You can do whatever you want. I'm not quitting. And as Oven is about to hit her again, Pound comes in, interferes as Sanji slips in and grabs Chiffon and gets her out of there so that they can go. You get Oven taunting Capone with Chiffon, and Capone is another one whose bond with his family has really started to win me over. It's really nice, I will admit. He's winning me over, because as soon as he hears his wife is in danger, and she's just like, leave me, like, they're planning on executing us all if we stay anyways, just leave me here and escape. And he's just like, not a chance. There's not a chance he's leaving his wife behind. But Capone's ship can navigate on land because it's like a tank on land. So it comes on land, and Sanji kicks the cake so high that it kicks onto the ship, and they reunite on the ship, and their dynamic is so funny. I crack up every time Sanji has this dynamic with these characters, and he's just so over everything, and they're so mad about nothing. It's so funny to me. I don't know why, but it is. So they get the cake on the ship, and they're heading back out when Oven, because he's got heat powers. But yes, he has heat powers, so he's boiling the water, and Pound comes in to stop him. Even though Chiffon does not recognize that that is her father, because she never knew her dad, because Big Mom kicked Pound out the moment the kids were born. Never even let him hold his children once. I did not think I would hurt for Pound of all characters. But acting as a true father would, knowing who his children are, even though he's only seen them once. He's seen them as babies the moment they were born, and that was it. And I love that as he is fighting Oven, as he is defending his daughter so that she can escape, all he's thinking about is her. He has no concern for his safety, for his well-being, what's about to happen to him. He's thinking to Chiffon and waving at his grandson, and he says, "Are you happy? I don't even know your name," talking to his grandson. "But make sure your mommy and daddy love you very much. I was never able to do that for my own children." He says, "Chiffon, I'm glad I saw you. Sure, you might be on the run for some reason, but at least you seem happy." And the fact that the grandson recognized Pound as some family member, as someone he loved and trusted, and started crying the moment he realized what was going to happen to Pound. Chiffon being confused about the entire situation because she doesn't recognize him. Pound sitting there waving with a smile on his face, accepting his own death because it has helped save his daughter's life. And as he's reminiscing about all the parts of life that he's missed, but he's still hoping that she's happy now. He's hoping that the hard times that she's endured are over and that she can be free. And then he's like, "Well, let me just say this one last thing. Congratulations on your wedding." And then Oven kills him. This hurt me for no reason. Like, why? Why was this in here just to hurt me? This was an unexpected pain I was not expecting, because I wasn't even like really attached to Pound as a character, even though I knew he was the father of Lola and Chiffon from like the first part of this arc. I knew he was their father, but I wasn't like super attached to his character or anything. And then this moment comes. Amazing dad. He's an amazing dad. I was not expecting to cry at this, but I did. But after that, we get Luffy returning to Katakuri, devising ways to use Future Sight like him. You get Big Mom getting skinnier and skinnier the longer her rampage lasts and the longer she doesn't eat. And then we get the Sulong, where Carrot as a mink, which means the foreshadowing from Zoe saying that they had a secret weapon, they had an ace up their sleeves, being this, that they can transform into a moon lion, a Sulong underneath the full moon. I was not expecting this. If y'all saw my read with me, y'all saw my reaction to this. I definitely was not prepared. Just the whole thing was wild. And like Carrot's transformation, and then how just like majestic she looks underneath the full moon, and she just leaps across like flying through the air, and is destroying everything and takes the wheel and just is like, aha, you can't do anything now, and just starts destroying everything. And then Brooke's like, oh, good idea, and he hops in on it and starts taking people's wheels, and then ends up getting Carrot and takes her back to the ship before anything can happen. Like, what? That means there is a Sulong form of Beppo somewhere out there, of all of the memes, and now I want to see that. I want Luffy to like call an attack with the minks, and like during the middle of the night, during the middle of a full moon, and just all of them go Sulong form and attack. That would be wild and amazing, and I want to see it. Because we got to see another mink do that form, Peckham's. He did the Sulong form to save Luffy as Luffy was trying to escape the Chocolate Island after he got out of the Mirror World. Then we get Sanji and Capone arguing about whether or not to poison the cake for Big Mom. Sanji obviously nixes the idea and feeds Capone some of like the icing for the cake, and Capone's just like, okay, this is great. He like feeds him into bliss, and Capone's just like, no, this'll work. I want to know what kind of icing Sanji used. And you get Big Mom catching up to the Sunny and starting to attack the ship. Jinbei brings out his ornament hockey, which I did not know he had, and ends up landing a huge blow on Big Mom. And Big Mom just continues to get skinnier and skinnier as she rages. Brooke and Nami's team up. Brooke slicing through Zeus, and then Nami manipulating that to cast this huge like lightning bolt down on Big Mom, and then she captures Zeus and like, poor thing, makes Zeus her like servant. Poor thing. But like that whole scene of them like tag teaming and like Brooke going after Big Mom and Zeus, and then Nami doing that, it's been so great. And Nami has been like thriving in these fights because of her use of the weather. She has been doing so well against Big Mom. But then we get, and y'all corrected me on how to say her name, Stussy, because it's like Luffy, but Stussy. So Stussy is over here plotting with Big Bird. I don't know his name, but he looks like Big Bird, so I'm calling him Big Bird because I cannot find his name anywhere in my notes. So Stussy and Big Bird are over here talking about the Tamate box that had exploded, and they're kind of planning things. Those two are characters that I know are going to be like big players later on. I'm just sure of it, because of how they kept being integrated into the storyline, even though they weren't part of anything, but they kept being shown. I'm on to you, Oda. But yes, but then we get to Flampe, this egoist who is so full of herself, thinks that she's the favorite. She's favored by Katakuri and Big Mom, and you know, she leads this fan club for Katakuri and thinks she can do whatever she wants. And she tries to interfere with the fight as Luffy and Katakuri are fighting, because Luffy will not go down. He is not going down no matter what, to the point where even Katakuri is questioning, like, why won't you go down? Why will you not stop? And Luffy, the longer they fight, the more he's starting to see into the future like Katakuri. He's getting that future sight, and Katakuri notices this as they're like matching each other. And then we get back to the ship where Sanji is, and they've got the cake completely iced. But I do like this parallel with Luffy and Sanji, as they both have two very different tasks, two extremely different tasks. This is just like Sanji's bread and butter. He is in an environment, he is thriving, he's cooking, he's doing great, he's on, you know, rescue missions, which is also stuff he does great at. And Luffy is in his environment fighting. He's not, he's struggling a little bit, but he's doing good too. I love the mirroring of their characters and their belief in each other, because Luffy is talking about Sanji, Sanji is talking about Luffy, and it says, because they believe in me. But then yes, Big Mom finally smells the tasty cake and starts chasing after Capone. So Capone is leading Big Mom off somewhere else to get her away from the Straw Hats. You have Sanji coming back to the Sunny because of Pudding. Pudding brings him, And I was so happy because I was like, this boy needs a hug. After everything he's been through, he needs a hug. And he finally got his hug. He finally got his hug, and that look from Nami whenever she hugs him told me everything I needed to know. I love Brook's character so much because he met Sanji. He's one of the last to have joined up in the crew, so he's known Sanji like one of the least amounts of time. But he understands Sanji so easily, so deeply, because he knew if he told Sanji about Pedro at that time while they were still amidst all of this, it would distract Sanji. It would put that weight, that burden on his mind, because he knows Sanji is the type of person to blame himself because he thinks this whole thing is his fault anyways. So he knew if he told Sanji about Pedro right then, Sanji would blame himself and it would distract them from what they needed to do. And Brook didn't want that. Brook didn't want that extra weight on Sanji's shoulders at the moment because, one, there were still things that they had to do, but two, Brook knew what would happen should he tell Sanji. But Sanji leaves again quickly after that to go back to Chocolate Island to be there for when Luffy comes out of the mirror world so that he can rescue Luffy and escape. So now I'm going to talk about like the last part. I think I've like talked about it like in 2 segments, I guess, so far. But this is like the main chunk of Luffy versus Katakuri. So that's what I'm going to talk about now. So at this point, Luffy and Katakuri are fighting on equal footing. They are both landing blows on each other. They're both taking damage. Luffy has taken heavier damage than Katakuri up to this point. For the most part, they are fighting on equal grounds as of now until Flampe interferes, makes Luffy slip, and when she makes him slip, Katakuri's attack goes through his side. And Katakuri, at first, his first reaction is like, well, why did you lose focus? Like, we were in the midst of battle. Why did you lose focus? And then he starts saying, he's like, well, what's wrong? And Luffy, while trying to dodge Katakuri's attacks, is seeing what Flampe is doing. So he's avoiding her attacks, but falls. And when he falls, Flampe starts laughing at him and making fun of Luffy and just like looking down on him for falling. And Katakuri, once he realizes that Flampe has been interfering, gets so furious with her. I love it because he really is an honorable person. He kind of reminds me of Jinbei in a sense. Like, I know they're very, very different, but the honor that Katakuri has is very similar to the honor Jinbei has. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I see it in my mind. But Katakuri is very honorable. He doesn't want an underhanded win. He wants to win fair and square. And so, what does he do? He goes up in front of Flampe and stabs himself through the gut to give himself a matching wound to Luffy to again put them on equal footing. This man is mad, but he's so freaking cool. He's fantastic. I like him. Can he like switch sides? I love what he says. The last thing I need is some half-hearted assistance. And he takes off the scarf when he does this to show his shame, in a sense, to show what he's insecure about. And he says, if you're gonna laugh at anything, laugh at me. That's such a cold line. And Flampe sucks. Like, she's just awful. And the hypocrisy and how quick they change up on him just because of one, I don't even know if you'd call it a deformity, just one physical attribute to his appearance, because it looks like a monster, because it's scary or it's abnormal, because it's not what they thought he would be. It didn't fit his appearance. It didn't fit his, facade that they all built around him. She turns on him. All of them do. They all turn on Katakuri and they start laughing at him and mocking him. Like, they start throwing stuff at him and like taking pictures, laughing, and she's like, oh, well, I'm going to shame you on the fan club or whatever. I'm just gonna make, and it's such a realistic thing. People turn on you so fast. It's ridiculous. It sucks because it happens in real life. People do turn on you that quick. I felt really bad for Katakuri, but also he didn't let it bother him because he turned around, he went back to Luffy, and he apologizes. I'm sorry about this. I was sloppy. I failed to notice the needle. And Luffy's like, there's no such thing as fighting dirty in a battle against pirates. It's my fault for not being able to dodge it. And then they're both just like, but we're tired of the peanut gallery around here. And they both use Emperor's Haki to knock them all out so that they can actually have an equal battle. And I love this moment when Katakuri puts his fist back up after they're facing each other. Luffy has his fist up, and Katakuri says, I no longer assume that you are inferior to me. Luffy says, that's great, thanks, but I'm still going to win. I love Katakuri. Like, I liked him before. I thought I was going to really like his character when he was first introduced, but like, the end of this arc just completely won me over. I love him. He is a great character. He is fantastic. I love his morality. I love his protectiveness when it comes to the people he cares about. I love the honor that he has in battle and the integrity he holds himself to, both as a brother, as a son, and as a warrior and a pirate. I really, really like him. And we have these flashbacks that Luffy has with Rayleigh about the training that he underwent and how Rayleigh was trying to teach him to tap into Haki on a deeper level. Rayleigh points out something that I think is very true about Luffy. We have seen it to be very true about Luffy, and I think the more he hones his observation Haki, the more he will be in tune with this. But Rayleigh says, within the confines of the color of observation Haki, you seem especially attuned to the emotions of living things. It's probably unconscious, though. The fact that Rayleigh's like, you are very attuned to people's emotions, to people's feelings. Not just people, like feelings of living things. Goes all the way back to Orange Town with Choo Choo, the dog. We saw it from the very beginning. People and animals. Luffy has a connection with them, and I love it. And his emotional intelligence has shown so brilliantly in this arc. I think this flashback is perfectly timed. But they're both landing blows on each other. They're going like tit for tat at this point until Luffy finally falls. And Katakuri is like, is this all you've got? And Luffy's already standing back up, and he's just like, yeah, it is. And Katakuri using his future sight. It's so cool how they do this. I love this panel. I love this panel. Because as Luffy's standing up, Katakuri uses his future sight, and he's like, oh, yes, I accept. And Luffy's like, it's time to end this. But then we get Gear 4 Snake Man, which is different than Bounce Man. I didn't know there were different types of Gear 4. I mean, I guess it's like Gear 3 in a sense, where he can do different things with Gear 3. I don't know. I wasn't expecting 2 different forms from Gear 4. And I did have just a random question. What's with all the like smoke around Luffy's body in this form? Like there was some around his body in Bounce Man, but it doesn't look like steam. It looks like fluffy clouds that's around Luffy's body. He's just like outlined in clouds. They look like clouds. It's like billowing off of him, like from his hands to his feet, all around his body. I just noticed it because I know there was always steam that emitted from him in like Gear 2 and sometimes in Gear 3, but this is different. Like, this looks so much different than the other gears that he's had. I don't know why. Is it like the attribute that he's using to get himself into Gear 4? Like, because Gear 4 hasn't fully been explained to us. I don't know. But Snake Man is different than Bounce Man. It's a lot more flexible. He's using that Python move to keep bending and bending, and he's hitting Katakuri quite a bit. And they're going all out in their fight. And Katakuri ends up landing this huge, painful hit on Luffy. that cracks Luffy down to the ground, and Luffy is saying everything he's feeling. Katakuri's like, why are you saying all this? And Luffy, I love his answer. He's just like, it feels much better this way. It's so straightforward. But I think it helps Luffy just his mind keep going. It clears his mind. It helps him to continue on so he doesn't stop to think about what he's feeling, about the pain that he's in. Because if he stops to consider it, then he could fall and not get back up. And I will say, this one panel too, again, with Luffy's outline, it's clouds. It's definitely clouds. It doesn't look like steam. That's besides the point. But they finally both fall. Luffy falls on his back, and Katakuri falls forward at first. And then Katakuri gets up, walks over to Luffy, and he asks Luffy if he's gonna come back one day to defeat Big Mom. And Luffy, of course, says, of course, because I'm gonna be king of the pirates. And I love Katakuri's response. He says, you're looking quite far into the future. And with that, Katakuri falls on his back. That is his virtuous signal of defeat, that he has conceded to Luffy, he has lost to Luffy by letting himself fall on his back, which was originally meant to be this source of shame, that nobody should fall on their back. And Katakuri willingly, though he had first fallen forward, he willingly gets up, talks to Luffy, and concedes defeat by falling backwards. I love that. It gives me chills. After their battle, we get Big Mom being so hungry that she was like wasting away. You have Sanji and Pudding on the chocolate island waiting for Luffy. You get Sanji so determined and ready to be there for his captain. And then we get Pudding finally letting her guard down and stopping pretending to be someone who she isn't. And the only reason she does this is because Sanji finally just breaks her down for good. And in like a good way. When he thanks her. He thanks her. Sanji is the most caring person. I'm blown away by how soft and how kind he is to others. And he turns to Pudding as they're hiding. He's like, well, thank you for everything. Our time to part is soon. Thank you for everything. And Pudding tries to be harsh to him because she's thinking of everything that she did to him, thinking of the whole plan that they had put in place, how she mocked Sanji. And then Sanji says, if somebody had to play the role of my fiance, I'm glad it was you. And he's smiling at her, and she finally breaks down. He apologizes on top of that for making her cry. And then she asks for one final request from him, because she is honestly a sweet girl when not trying to be this evil person that Big Mom has wanted her to be, or this source of shame that people have seen her as because of her third eye. But then Luffy gets out of the Mirror Island with the help of Peckham's. Peckham's gets him out because Peckham's grabbed Brûlé. Peckham's uses his Sulong form to give Luffy a chance to escape from everybody there waiting for him. And just as Luffy is trying to escape and he's getting caught, Sanji comes in and saves him. And I love it. As soon as they're going away, Sanji looks down at him and says, so you won? And Luffy's smiling. He said, I did. I will say there's such a small moment, but as they're surrounded and Sanji and Luffy are getting kind of kicked out of the air, I love that Sanji not only turns to take the hit himself, as he's falling, he's holding Luffy like by the head, like protecting Luffy to keep him safe. And then when he falls, he turns so that he's the one hitting the ground and not Luffy, because he knows how exhausted Luffy is. He knows how hurt Luffy is. It's such a small moment, but again, it just adds to just the depth of Sanji's character. It was such a small moment, but it was so sweet. Sanji and Luffy are in a little bit of a tight spot. They're not sure how they're gonna get out of there till an explosion goes off in the harbor. And who comes to his aid? The brothers, it raised you. The Vinsmokes all come to protect Sanji. I'm so mad about it. I mean, I'm not mad that they, helped them escape. I'm not mad about that. I'm glad that Luffy and Sanji escaped. I'm just mad about them in general because I was so content to just hate the Vinsmokes with everything I had. For them, like I said in my last video, for them to just be simple characters that were just full of hate and had nothing else to them, had no other good qualities to them, that they were just gonna be simple evil villains that I could hate and be happy about it. But I can't. Oda, why? I dislike them. I don't like them still. But how they work towards their atonement in a way that they won't admit that it is atonement, but they're still following through is so shocking. I was reading this. I think I was laying down at this point. I was just laying down reading, and as soon as I saw that the Vinsmokes came, I jumped up and I was like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" They're the ones who come to save Sanji. They're the ones who show up in his hour of need, trying to pass it off as a coincidence, saying, "Oh well, what does he say?" He says, "We were just hoping to get some payback on our own," saying, "Oh, what a coincidence that you're here, Sanji." It's not a coincidence. Somewhere in the depths of their souls, their very dark souls, they care. I mean, just it's a little baby seed, little baby sapling, not even a sapling, smaller than a sapling. It's a little baby seed, but it's there. I am convinced that yes, they've lost a lot of the positive emotions through the experiments and everything, but I am convinced that not all of it was completely wiped out. It makes the whole situation with Sanji's family so much messier, so much more complicated, which is great storytelling, it's great character writing, but my goodness does it make it hard on me because I can't just blindly hate on them anymore. I mean, I guess you could, but me, personally, I can't. It's I still have a strong dislike, but that hatred that I had at the very beginning of this arc has simmered down to a very strong dislike because of the actions that they've taken that have shown maybe not remorse, but a sense of, well, I'm going to do my best to make it up to you in a way that I can, in a way that I can manage, that's within my capabilities. It's not going to be what you expect, it's not going to be what you want, it's not even going to be particularly nice to you, if it is in any way, but I'm going to do my part to atone. Because they've realized, if anything, they realize Sanji has saved their lives, and they owe him. They owe him for that. Again, as much as they say they don't care, it's I hate it because it's obvious in a very subtle way. I know that doesn't make any sort of sense, but that's the only way I can describe it. That's how it feels to me. This is my interpretation of, I guess, the Vinsmokes. Because as they show up, as they're fighting off, I can't remember who it is, which brother it is, but he says, "Take that wounded fellow and get off this island, Sanji." And he says, "Well, you're only holding us back here." And of course, because Sanji is going to be carrying Luffy and Luffy's at a commission, it is a truth to an extent because Sanji's priority is Luffy, Sanji's priority isn't fighting. Germa's priority is fighting and defending Sanji. So if Sanji leaves, their mission's over. And then they're like, well, they set a trap for us and now they're gonna pay. So like they're still in it for themselves in a sense because they're getting their own payback. Like I know that's very true. Like I'm not making a mistake on that. I know they're getting their payback too for what Big Mom did. And then Sanji contacts the Sunny and says, there's a way I can get back to the ship. I need y'all to, what does he say? Yeah, he's like, I will return this way. Y'all have to go by the harbor. I will return to y'all with Luffy. And so Sanji makes a hole. He's running for it with Luffy in his arms. And they're all wondering like how Luffy escaped. They're speculating that he ran away, that he was a coward, he ran from Katakuri, or he trapped Katakuri somehow, that he did something very underhanded. And Brûlée, though she's crying, she comes out and says, no, he didn't run. She says, he did not slip past our brother Katakuri through some simple diversion. Our brother Katakuri, powerful, perfect Katakuri, greatest in the world, lost his fight against Straw Hat Luffy. It shocks everyone. And that makes Luffy even more of a target, so they're all coming after him with renowned vigor. They're like going after him. They want to capture him now. But again, his brothers protect them, keep the soldiers away, and tell Sanji to jump to escape. And when he's not going fast enough, when Sanji's not going fast enough, the brother who looks like Zoro like swirled around his weapon and got Sanji into the air, and Niji is the one who catches him. And it's so funny because they're trying in their own way, in their own way, helping, but they're still like pretending. Not, it's so difficult because it's like they're partially pretending, but also like still having that teasing, and it's more teasing tone than it is a mocking tone now. Like you can tell there's a small difference. You can tell the difference in how they're talking to Sanji now. There's a difference in how they're teasing him or saying, oh, well, you know, you're in our way, you need to go, you're a failure, blah, blah, blah. It's different now when they're talking to him than it was at the very beginning of this arc. I don't know how to explain it better than that, but you can just tell the tone is different. And he says, they're gonna blast you to pieces if that's the fastest you can go. And he says, so long, failure. Almost like a term of endearment, which, I mean, it's not. It's still like, nobody wants to be called a failure. But it's like, in that context, it's almost like Niji said it as like a term of endearment to Sanji before he launches Sanji out of town and gets him out of there. And of course, Reiju, as they're trying to attack Sanji going through the sky, she attacks, I love her, she says, I'm not going to stand by while you shoot at my little brother. We love a good protective older sister. She's the best sister. She's one of the best sisters. She's amazing. I love her. She's fantastic. And they make it on the ship. Sanji and Luffy, they make it back on the ship. And as they get back to the ship, Big Mom gets to the cake that was dropped off by Capone, and she starts eating the cake and absolutely loves it. And we get this flashback of like Sanji making the cake and just being the absolute best cook, best boy ever, talking about how he's picturing the look on Big Mom's face when he tastes, or when she tastes his food, how he's filled with joy thinking about it. And then we see Big Mom's face when she tastes the cake, and she's like, this is the best cake in the world. I mean, obviously Sanji cooked it, or I guess baked is the better term. Sanji baked it, of course it's the best. Then back on the ship, the Sunny trying to escape, still surrounded, but then it wasn't just Sanji's brothers and sister that came. Judge brought the whole fleet, the whole Germa fleet, and Judge is on the fleet, and he's protecting Sanji and the Sunny now. I have more mixed feelings about Judge now than I do the brothers, because Judge was not the participant of all these experiments. He forced it on his children. He is the main cause of everything. So I have a harsher judgment for Judge than I do for the brothers. And then we get this wonderful, wonderful interaction between Judge and Luffy. As Judge is looking at Luffy and Sanji from his ship, he's looking at the Sunny, and he calls out to Luffy, And he says, what does he really... Oh, I can't. I don't know why, but that like just viscerally just made me almost start crying. He says, what does he really mean to you, Straw Hat Luffy? This is an inescapable den of danger, the territory of Big Mom, Emperor of the Sea. Did you really risk your lives just to take him back? And then Judge listing out all of the qualities he thinks is the worst part of Sanji. Trying to be like, why would you want him? He's all of this. He says, his skin is no armor. He busies himself with cooking. He has no royal pride. He is swayed by pointless emotions and exposes himself to danger for the sake of the weak. His mentality is soft and he is flawed as a soldier. He is a failure, Judge says. And then Luffy looking at Judge, and you can see Sanji's expression, hearing all these things from his father. And Luffy just says, so long, thanks for the backup. And Judge is like, answer me. And Luffy being just the absolute best, says, why was he just listing off all of your best qualities? And Sanji's just, I love how Sanji's even trying to be like, no, like, that's definitely not what he thought he was doing. That's definitely not what he meant. And Jinbei's laughing, being like, oh, you guys are the best. You guys are great. I love Luffy. And it's just like, yeah, he loves all the things about Sanji that Judge hated. All the things that make Sanji who he is as a person, Judge rejected and Luffy accepted. And that was like the one final like realization, the big like scales falling off the eyes, like open your eyes to reality. This is what people who know you think of you, not what you're envisioned to be by someone who never cared for you, but by someone who saw you and let you be the person you were without judging that, without wanting to change that. I love Luffy and Sanji. And then, as if it couldn't get crazier than that, they're leaving, the fleet is still chasing them. Wadatsumi comes up from underneath, the monk man that Jinbei had been traveling with, and then the rest of the Fishman Sun Pirates come back up to fight for these Straw Hats, to fight for Jinbei as a send-off to Jinbei, out of respect for Jinbei because of Jinbei's decision. I love the Fishmen, I love Wadatsumi, I love all of them, they're fantastic, all fighting against Oven and the rest of the fleet, trying to give the Straw Hats time to escape. And as all of this is happening, it's like kind of chaotic towards the end. You have Big Mom singing a song as she's eating her cake and like getting life back into her from eating. You have Wadatsumi putting the sunny in his mouth and diving under so it doesn't get destroyed, and then coming back out so that he can defend everything. Big Mom singing, and then like they're all getting injured. They're like, Straw Hats are escaping, but everybody behind is starting to get injured. And the part that I mentioned at the beginning that I was like, are they okay, is because Big Mom corners Germa as they're trying to escape, all the brothers and sisters, and she's saying life or death. And I was like, are they okay? I never would have imagined. I would have thought that about anyone in Sanji's family besides Reiju. But here we are. But we get Jinbei's honor coming into play. He sees the fishmen fighting for him, and he says that he cannot leave them behind. He cannot leave them, so he basically gets permission from Luffy to stay behind and fight. And then I love Luffy shouting to Jinbei, saying, we'll be waiting in Wano, so you better show up. Don't even let death stop you. And as soon as Jinbei and the fishmen do distract Big Mom long enough to let them escape, they're gone. And then again, at the very end of this arc, because they escaped earlier, you have Stussy and Big Bird, again, just talking to each other, and Big Bird just sitting here talking about, you know, the worst generation and everything, and he says, or first of all, he's cheering for Luffy, and then he says, I see it this way, or the way I see it, Susie. In the near future, one of the worst generation is going to rise to claim the mantle of the Pirate King. They keep popping up. I have a feeling Stussy and Big Bird are gonna be some sort of contenders later on in the story. I have no idea in what capacity, but I think they're gonna be important. After the Straw Hats escape, finally they let Sanji know about Pedro, and he does get very sad. Carrot is actually there to comfort him, and she tells him, because of course as soon as he hears it, he's like, all because he came to get me. Of course he's gonna blame himself. Anybody would in that situation. And Carrot says, like, don't feel bad, just tell him thank you. And Sanji gives her a hug to comfort her as she's crying. Then we get Pudding's like full redemptive moment where she finally reveals what her last request was for Sanji. She wanted to thank Sanji in a way that she thought was appropriate for both of them, for the sham that they had been in, for pretending to be fiancés, and she gives him a kiss and then afterwards takes his memory so that he can't remember that she kissed him, and then runs away after that, not letting him know what she did and not saying another word to him. She says thank you and goodbye, and she's sitting there with the memory in her hand crying. She had slowly been winning me over throughout the last parts of this arc, and this moment like sealed it for me. Like it really did. This moment sealed it. I was like, I like this character a lot. Another moment I really like is this moment between Brule and Katakuri, as Brule goes back to the mirror world to see Katakuri, and she's like, why did you switch to your back? Didn't you fall face first originally? And he's like, oh yes, I wonder why. And then he admits, he's like, my life has been nothing but a lie. And I love Brule. She looks at him and smiles and she says, I know. But she loved him for who he was. And we have flashbacks of them as children, how Katakuri would be mocked for his face, but then how he would always protect Brule. He was always there for her, always stood up for her. They were really close siblings growing up. And then he asks, he's like, did Straw Hat, and I think he's trying to say, did Straw Hat survive? Did Straw Hat escape? And she says, if I tell you, you're going to think, oh good. He's like, well, can you see the future too? She's like, well, he left the future. And he's just like, huh. And she's like, see, I told you. I love it so much. And then, gosh, their sibling relationship just really warmed my heart, because I was not expecting it, and I really, really love it. And then we get the crew back on the ship. Sanji is back cooking, so everybody is relieved because they actually can have edible food. And then we get this beautiful, beautiful parallel back in the East Blue with Baratier, and Zeph is starting to cook, and then we get this beautiful picture with both of them cooking, saying, you're hungry, I'll feed you. The very end of this arc, Niji slipped Sanji a Germa suit, the number 3, number 3. Sanji doesn't want it. They convince him, kind of, in a way, not to get rid of it. Luffy just grabs it. Then Nami still has Zeus. Zeus is just kind of with us now. I mean, I guess he's betrayed Big Mom at this point for snacks, which... And then we get new bounties. Sanji's bounty has gone up a lot. He's mad that they have Vinsmoke still attached to his name. And then Luffy is depressed because his bounty got lowered. His bounty went down, and he's like, him and Sanji are both just so depressed over the new bounties, because Sanji's like, oh, it's only because of, you know, the Vinsmoke name, and Luffy's just like, I went down. My bounty went down. But of course, no, it didn't go down. He just can't count. But we get the Reverie coming up. There are a lot of things happening in the underground of the Reverie. People trying to stop people from coming. There are kidnappings around to hold ransoms. But then we get Captain Kobe, who's like swimming underwater like a little fish, and just like Kobe? We get him back up, and he's looking so confident. He's still like a little fanboy of Luffy, and I love that. He's still great. I love him. I was not expecting to see him back in the story like this right before the reverie. Huge revelation. Huge revelation. I was not ready for this. It's talking about Luffy challenging Big Mom. And it's talking about how Luffy has 7 different crews under him. He has the Straw Hat Fleet that they made in Dressrosa. And his brotherhood with Ace and Sabo, the positions they held. The extreme charisma and leadership to assume impromptu command over the formidable trio of the Army of the Evil Germa 66, the Pirates of the Sun, and the Fire Tank Pirates. The calculated strategic brilliance to execute the destruction of the Queen's castle, and the strength to defeat her officers worth 800 million and 1 billion berries. The result of this incident was clear to all that Straw Hat Luffy was victorious. It was the arrival of the 5th Emperor of the Sea. Luffy is he's an emperor now. Like, they're calling him the 5th emperor now, and they're saying everything that happened on Whole Cake Island, that he's victorious, that he won that whole thing, even though he didn't beat Big Mom. He was victorious in that situation, which, I mean, yeah, kind of, yeah, he accomplished what he went out there to do, which was to get Sanji back. He was claimed a victor by Big Bird, because Big Bird's the one who wrote the article. And I love, as everybody's reading this report, you see pictures of like Crocodile and Vivi, and then we get Akainu and he's mad, and it makes me happy. You have everybody reacting to this news, and even Big Mom's like, what are you talking about? Why are they saying I lost? She's getting mad. And then you get Kaido reading the report, and he's getting angry because he knows Luffy's the one who screwed everything up. And then Shanks makes an appearance that says, oh, looks like we'll be meeting soon, Luffy. And that is when it is revealed that Luffy did not have his bounty go down. It went up. He is now a 1.5 billion berry man. A 1.5 billion berry wanted man. What a way to end the arc. I mean, just what a way. And ending it on such a high note. Such a note of foreshadowing and just this kind of power that is embellished, and you have people in the back supporting them, people getting angry at Luffy, his new title surrounding him, whether he knows it yet or not. He is unofficially known as, or officially or unofficially, I'm not sure, as the 5th Emperor of the Sea, and he's getting attention from all the other emperors, and now he's on the move. Ooh. So excited. I am so excited. Oh, I have loved this arc. This arc has been wonderful. I love it. I love it so much. But yeah, that's where the arc ends. And I'm really, really, really excited to see where we go from here. Sanji is back in the crew. We got Jinbei left again, but we're gonna get him a Wano. I know we're gonna get him a Wano. Luffy told him to come. He's gonna join us. We're gonna see him again. I don't know when, but we should be on our way to Wano. I am going to Wano. I've almost made it to Wano. I don't know how to feel about that. I'm in the 900s. I'm in the 900s. Wow. Yeah. We're about to reach Wano. I'm so excited. That means I'm getting closer and closer to catching up. That just doesn't seem possible, but here we are. Oh my goodness. I hope y'all liked this review. This has been a fantastic arc. Obviously, I have just loved it so much. As much as it has hurt me, and it hurts me a lot. It hurts me quite a bit. I also really, really do love this arc. It's an amazing arc. Thank you so much for watching this review. I know it was a little bit longer. But thank you so much for watching it. I hope you enjoyed it. And sometime in the next week or so, I might be taking a week off. I'm not sure. It just depends on how my schedule works out, because I'm super busy at the moment. So either next week or the week after that, we'll be diving into the Reverie, and then we'll be going from there. My schedule for November should be out soon-ish. Emphasis on the ish. But keep a lookout. I'll post it on the community tab whenever I have it ready, when I have it decided. So keep a lookout for that. And other than that, thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to check out all the other videos I've posted, and I will see you next time, scholars. Bye!